He was fired from Men's Health for making fun of Girl Scouts and from Stuff magazine for hiring gnomes to break into a business meeting. His deal at Maxim UK ended without being renewed because circulation dropped while he was in charge. As of 2006, Greg Gutfeld had been fired from every big newspaper he had ever worked for. The media elite had written him off as not being able to find work. Then Fox News called with a strange deal. Put on a show at 3 a.m. A time slot that was so empty that execs joked that the only people who would be there were speed dealers and nursing mothers. No one thought he would last 3 months. In the present day, that same reject has more watchers than Colbert, Fallon, and Kimmel put together. He became the undisputed king of late-night TV even though he never appeared on late-night TV. But going from being a repeated failure to being the biggest star on TV wasn't just luck. It meant getting fired over and over again. Meet a Russian model in Portugal, become a cult hero to people who can't sleep, and completely change the rules of American talk shows. To figure out how a man who couldn't keep a job for more than 2 years became the most watched show on TV during his time slot, we need to look at where the damage started. Gregory John Gutfeld came into the world in San Mateo, California, on September 12, 1964. His mother Jackie brought up the kids in a Catholic home. Greg went to Junipero Serra High School when he was younger. It was an all-boys Catholic school where NFL quarterback Tom Brady and baseball star Barry Bonds both graduated. In the middle of the 1980s, he started going to the University of California, Berkeley. This choice would shape the life of a future right media star in ways that were not expected. Berkeley's liberal atmosphere didn't change his mind. It turned him off. In the end, he said that being around liberals made him more conservative and being around conservatives made him more libertarian. He noticed that the worst parts of both groups did the same thing, they preached morals and told other people how to live. He didn't want to be a part of the purity tests for either tribe. Gutfeld got a job at the American Spectator after getting his English degree in 1987. Doing things for the magazine's extremely difficult editor, Mr. Emmett Tyrell. He learned how right media worked from the inside through this experience. But magazines didn't pay well, and Gutfeld moved on to writing for men's lifestyle mags. He started out as a staff writer at Prevention Magazine, a health-focused magazine. It was there that he started drinking and using drugs at a speed that his co-workers said was amazing. The party life would follow him for many years. In the end, he made it to Men's Health, which was the most popular fitness magazine in the 1990s and had the best abs and exercise advice. By 1999, Gutfeld was the main editor of the paper. His magazine for guys was one of the most popular in the United States. He was 35 years old. After that, he was fired. Depending on who told the story, the formal reasons were different. Gutfeld wrote things that made fun of the Girl Scouts, cat fans, and even his own boss. The parent company of the magazine decided he wasn't worth the trouble. One news source said that his work history was both amazing and sad. He kept getting to the top of the stairs and then falling back down. But Gutfeld didn't learn to be careful after failing. He made confusion even worse. Stuff magazine was his next stop. A magazine that was all about gadgets, girls, and other things that young guys were supposed to care about. Gutfeld turned it from an average book into a huge bestseller, increasing the number of readers from 750,000 to 1.2 million. He completely messed it up, pushing the limits that sponsors were okay with because the numbers kept going up. Then something happened that would make or break his job as a magazine writer. An event called What Gives a Magazine Buzz was put on by the American Society of Magazine Editors in April 2003. Gutfeld chose to give a straight answer to that question. His casting agent helped him hire 3 short actors, and he told them to cause as much trouble as possible at the meeting. Making a lot of noise, they ate potato chips. They let their phones ring over and over. They talked loudly while business leaders tried to talk. Security threw them out. The New York Times wrote about it. Gutfeld was fired right away. That would have been the end of most lives. His sure seemed to. Now, no big American newspaper would write about him. He was well known for the wrong reasons. But Greg Gutfeld wasn't happy just being fired from America. He chose to get himself sent to a whole different land. In 2004, London gave Gutfeld a chance to start over. Maxim needed an editor-in-chief in the UK, and it looked like no one there knew about the dwarf episode. They might have also known and not cared. Gutfeld packed his bags and crossed the Atlantic anyway. During his first week on the job, he had to go to Portugal for a work conference. Maxim was published in more than 30 countries, and writers from all over the world were brought together by the publisher to talk about strategy. Gutfeld went to his hotel room and started getting comfortable. Then he saw the woman in the room next door. She worked as a picture editor for Maxim Russia and was tall with dark hair. She began her job as a runway model and then moved on to work in magazines. Gutfeld was quickly interested in her at the conference in Portugal. He would later say that it was like he knew it right away. He saw her and thought, "That's my wife." He just knew it. Elena did not want to be with him, which was a problem. Gutfeld chased her for 3 days, even though he knew it was a stupid idea. The short American editor who kept showing up everywhere she went made her cold, rude, and uncaring. He finally asked her to go on a real date. "Yes," she said. There was a change between them. Elena moved from Russia to London to be with him within a few weeks. The friendship grew quickly, which would have looked risky to someone looking in from the outside. When they got married in New York, they had only known each other for 5 months. The wedding pictures were hard to find. Both of them would rather be private than be known. In his 2008 book, Gutfeld wrote about Elena and how she pushed him to see London the right way instead of staying in their flat and watching reality TV. He had never felt so stable in a bar or magazine office before she gave it to him. But stability wouldn't save his job. The effects of Gutfeld's time at Maxim UK were not good. Under his guidance, circulation went down. The company didn't renew his deal when it ran out in 2006. He was now 41 years old, out of work again, married, and didn't seem to have any good options. They moved to the city of New York. Elena started her own job as a fashion stylist and went on to work for Venice Magazine, L'Officiel, and Design Scene, among others. She finished in 2017 from Parsons School of Design. In 2006, though, both Gutfelds were beginning over. Greg took a weird job that looked like it would kill his career. He began writing for the Huffington Post. The Huffington Post was a perfect example of everything Gutfeld didn't like about left media. But Arianna Huffington, the founder, let conservatives speak on her stage, and Gutfeld saw a chance to cause trouble from within. People said that his post made them laugh at his fellow writers in a crazy way, which made it famous. He made fun of Arianna herself. He made fun of other writers. It was a battleground in every comment area because of him. An interesting message caught the eye of another blogger named Andy Levy. They started exchanging jabs and found that they had similar tastes. Dark, sarcastic, and ready to hurt anyone for a laugh. Soon, that internet sparring would turn into something more important. Because someone at Fox News was watching while Gutfeld was bothering lefties online. Late in 2006, the call came in. Fox News planned to start a late-night show. Did Gutfeld want to know? His answer came right away and was honest. He had no money. Anything was fine with him. Fox flew him to New York so they could meet. The sound was strange. It was time for the network to fill a spot that no one was watching. The show was supposed to run at 2 a.m., but most Americans would be asleep at that time. Gutfeld joked that the target group was made up of prisoners, speed dealers, and nursing moms. A lot of letters came from people in jail. The show began on February 5, 2007, with the name Red Eye. Gutfeld was looking forward to weeks of practice and careful planning. Instead, the leaders told him they would begin in 3 days. The team worked on their moves in the green room. Everyone, even the cameraman, had something to drink. There was more of a house party vibe than a TV studio vibe. Red Eye began at 2 a.m. The early episodes were seen by Fox executives, who thought the material was too adult for that time. So, they moved it to 3 a.m., which was even later. Where not as many people would see it and complain. Gutfeld was now demoted on his own show before it even got any viewers. But in the middle of the night, something strange happened. Red Eye gained a cult following. The structure of the show went against everything you know about cable news. Gutfeld would introduce guests with compliments that were way too good to be true. They talked about everything from politics to pop culture to silliness. There was nothing holy. There was nothing holy. People started making fun of Fox News all the time. Funny things on TV were dark, silly, and nothing like what was on that show. Andy Levy, who used to fight with Gutfeld at Huffington Post, became the show's ombudsman. Bill Schultz, a co-worker from Gutfeld's time at Stuff magazine, was chosen to be his helper. The three of them got along surprisingly well. Levy was the master of cold snark. Schultz played a fool that everyone liked. Gutfeld was in charge of the chaos like a naughty circus manager. Jackie Gutfeld, Gutfeld's mother, showed up a lot on Red Eye. He told her the joke about her age when he gave her the title of senior reporter. She had to watch Fox News during the day and tell everyone what she saw. She kept saying that the women on TV and in movies wore skirts that were too short. Gutfeld would answer that other people liked those clothes. The way the mother and son interacted with each other on camera made it seem real. Gutfeld used to feel bad about introducing his friends to his parents when he was younger. As an adult, he realized that those friends would rather hang out with Jackie than with him. People liked her because she was honest and straightforward. She backed her son in everything he did, even when it looked like it was doomed to fail. It wasn't supposed to work, Red Eye. A show at 3 a.m. With no funds, drunk cameramen, and topics that seemed to be picked at random, they had no reason to get people to watch. The numbers did go up, though. Even though it aired in the middle of the night, the show started to do better than evening cable news shows. Then, in July 2011, Fox gave Gutfeld a bigger job. A brand new midday show called The Five Needed Hosts. It had 5 experts who talked about politics and the news every weekday at 5 p.m. One of those 5 would be Gutfeld. The 5 were a big deal. The show was the first non-primetime show to ever get the most viewers overall and among people 25 to 54, which is a very important audience group. Gutfeld was suddenly seen by millions of people instead of thousands, but he kept hosting Red Eye 2 and worked on both shows at the same time for almost 4 more years. The work had to stop at some point. Gutfeld told Red Eye in February 2015 that he was moving to work on a new project. The 3 a.m. The show had done its job. Greg Gutfeld had shown that he could keep people interested even when they didn't think anyone was looking. Fox was interested in what he could do with a real-time spot. From May 31, 2015, to the present, the Greg Gutfeld show aired every Saturday at 10 p.m. It was a mix of political satire and variety show features. Yeah, Gutfeld gave speeches. He talked to people who make news. Kat Timpf, a comedian with a libertarian view and a sharp wit, and Tyrus, a professional wrestler, were both regular panelists. Tyrus was scary, but his comments were surprisingly thoughtful. For 6 years, the show played on the weekends while Gutfeld kept going on the 5 every day. He worked non-stop to build an audience of loyal fans who watched his shows over and over again. There was hardly any mention of him by late-night hosts on television networks. A Saturday show on Fox News wasn't seen as rivalry by them. The year 2021 came along. Fox News said that the Greg Gutfeld show would move to weeknights and change its name to just Gutfeld. At 11 p.m., the new show would start. Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Kimmel are all in direct competition with each other. Experts in the field expected failure. How could a cable news show compete with shows on traditional networks? How could a conservative comedian get people to watch him when they had been watching Jon Stewart and his peers for over 20 years? The answer came quickly. Gutfeld had passed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in the ratings by August 2021. Every night, more than 2 million people watched the show, which was more than any other show on broadcast or cable. The person who got up at 3 a.m. now took over 11 p.m. The person who was left out was now king. The numbers kept getting better. By the end of 2021, more than 5 million people watched both Gutfeld and the 5 together. 2.5 million people watched Gutfeld's most popular show ever in a single night in October 2022. Those numbers are too high for any late-night show to beat. Fox changed the time of Gutfeld to 10 p.m. in June 2023. Eastern. Because of the change, the show could no longer be considered late night. Some people said this was unfair because a 10 p.m. show shouldn't be compared to shows that air at 11:30. It didn't matter to Gutfeld what it meant. He cared about the people who were watching, and they kept coming. The show's popularity showed bigger changes in how Americans watch TV. Late-night shows had become more political, with hosts portraying conservative fans as the enemy. Gutfeld suggested another way. His jokes were mean to both parties when they earned it, but mostly they were mean to Democrats. Even more importantly, his show felt real in a way that polished television shows didn't. He was once called the most dangerous man on TV by the Weekly Standard. Gutfeld's work was truly radical, unlike that of other media figures. A stink bomb was thrown into every student lounge, mainstream newsroom, movie studio, and boardroom for a nonprofit in the United States. Not by following trends, but by being himself, he had found his audience. He caused a lot of trouble and was fired from every good job he had until he found one that liked chaos. The last parts of Gutfeld's story have gone in ways that no one, not even Gutfeld, saw coming. His news in December 2024 shocked people who had been watching for a long time. Greg Gutfeld had his first child when he was 60 years old. His wife Elena gave birth to a girl they named Mira. The news came during an episode of The Five where Gutfeld made fun of his daughter's great lungs and his plans to teach her 3 languages. After 20 years of marriage, they still didn't have any kids. Then Gutfeld had his first child, at a time when most men his age were thought about having grandkids. The private man who rarely talked about his wife on camera all of a sudden had a whole new side to his life. The baby news came at the same time that he continued to be the best at his job. Gutfeld was still the most watched show in its competitive set by 2025. On TV, his closest competitors had trouble getting 2 million people, while he always had more than 3 million. Oh, someone who the TV business had thought wasn't good enough for TV had changed the late-night scene. Part of the story is in how he is different from his rivals. It is said that making broadcast late-night shows costs about $100 million a year. Gutfeld only had a small amount of those tools to work with. His show was proud of its rougher beginnings and never tried to be as well put together as Colbert or Fallon's. His ideas about failing had turned out to be right on the mark. He said that getting fired was the best thing that could happen to anyone. When people get fired, they think their job is over. In fact, you always get to a better place. He had lived by that theory many times, turning each ending into a stepping stone instead of a dead end. It was only after the fact that the pattern became clear. With each firing, Gutfeld moved toward a place where his skills could really shine. Men's Health wants everyone to fit in. Stuff wanted to be normal. Maxim UK wants more copies to be sold. They didn't want someone who hired dwarves to cause trouble at business conferences. You can watch Fox News at 3 a.m. Gutfeld could finally be himself in a time slot that no one talked about. Elena stayed mostly out of sight as he rose to power. She kept working in fashion and would sometimes show up on his Instagram, but she didn't watch any of his TV shows. Their relationship lasted because she stayed out of the public eye. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Gutfeld used his ties at Fox News to help Elena's mother get from Lviv to Poland. He showed the recording of the reunion on the air. One of the few times his personal and working lives came together in public. Gutfeld was at the top of his game, which is something no one could have imagined when he was broke in a Chelsea bar in 2006. The man who joked that his first audience was made up of crooks and tired parents had used that as a base to build something strong. His viewers were not just Fox fans, but also more and more independents and even Democrats who didn't like what else was on TV. There is one story in the numbers. Over 3 million people watch every night. More than 5 million people watched both shows together. Ratings were so high that CBS had to decide if The Late Show could go on. But the numbers don't show why it worked. You can find the answer somewhere in that pattern of failing and starting over. Gutfeld never tried to change to fit what the business wanted. He was fired because he was tough. For breaking the rules and not controlling his impulses. Eventually, he found a place where those traits were seen as assets instead of liabilities. Greg Gutfeld showed that sometimes the 3 a.m. show can have all kinds of viewers, from speed dealers and nursing mothers to the biggest late-night TV crowd ever. Reject becomes king not by changing who he was, but by finding people who wanted exactly what he had been giving them all along.